Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. We greatly appreciate it. We have Jozeffa Alajahji. She's coming to us all the way from Sweden, and she's our first guest from Sweden, by the way, so we cannot thank her enough for doing that. But most importantly, she's our current guest on the show. Jozeffa, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Ryan, for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what got you inspired to adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle?
At the very beginning, at 5 years old, my dad put me in some gymnastic, swimming, everything, every sport he knew. Just put me in there. That's when it all started. So I continued, and I really like figure skating and swimming. I continued with that until I was 13. Then I start to work out in the gym and try to focus on the eating clean and gaining muscle
So,
part.
did you find that you already had that good development of muscle by the time you got started? Because a lot of people that we have on here that have competed, they were they sort of were muscular as kids, or they had that sort of genetic background. Was that you?
At the very beginning, I was very fat, but as I continued the swimming, I got the wider back, wider shoulders. So I definitely had a good beginning for making those shows later. But I have a good start right there.
Absolutely. And now we're just going to embarrass everyone here because she's only 22 years old, everyone, and she looks the way that she looks. That is absolutely ridiculous. Like I've said myself, I'm 24. I'm still looking to get that good look. That just shows all the hard work and dedication. But when you were starting out, I always sort of like to make the analogy where if you were to walk into a gym with 100 people, there's 100 different ways as to how people got the way that they look, whether it comes to their nutrition, how many reps they do, what exercises they use. Was that a struggle for you starting out to sort of figure out what worked best for your body and what got you the best results?
Yeah, of course. I have now I've been training in 10 years. It has been every day I learn something new. At the very beginning, I was really strong in the gym, but I unfortunately lifted horribly wrong. So I damaged my body before I start to work with it instead of against it. So of course, it's a journey.
Absolutely. And were you ever intimidated at all to go into the gym? Being that you were 13 years old, was that ever something that you really had to work over? Just sort of getting over that mental? Because I like to have a lot of women that we have on the show talk about, they're always afraid that there's going to be these big, 300-pound guys in there that are going to be super intimidating and are going to make it hard for them to lift. Was that ever a struggle for you sort of getting over the leap? Because 13 years old, that's very, very young to be working out and being in that atmosphere. Was that a struggle for you at all?
Actually, no, it wasn't. As I said, I was already strong, so I just felt like I was home when I was in the gym. The hardest part was when guys got intimidated by my strength and start to bullying me in the gym and stuff like that. That part was hard for me since I was so young. But otherwise, I loved going training and lifting heavy.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. So, at what part of your journey did you realize, hey, I could compete, I could do something? How long into your journey did you realize before you realized that, hey, this could be a possibility?
At the age of 16, I got to know my very first coach, who told me, yes, you will be ready to compete in 1 year. So I told him no way, that's not possible. I don't have that mass. He said, yeah, you have. I've been training for a long time now. You have. So I started working with him, and 17 years old, I did my first show. I got third place I was competing in both senior and it was open figure class. So third place, and then it just I couldn't stop.
Yeah. That's awesome. So was there a certain body part that really developed really, really quickly for you when you were starting to work out? And then was there a body part that you really had to work on in order to catch up with everything else?
I think at the very first I had my legs was my weakest part. It was I had already big shoulders and big back, but my legs was the smallest part. Yeah. So I have definitely had to work hard with them.
Yeah, that's absolutely the same thing with me. I have a big back naturally, and then my legs. That's one thing that I absolutely hate training, but I have to do it because it has to catch up with everything else. But one of the things that I love to talk about and most people don't talk about is, I mean, as you can tell, both of us are kind of pale people. We aren't the darkest of skins. So when it comes to putting that tan on for the first time, what was that experience like for you? I mean, being 17 years old, putting that tan on, we have so many people talk about, they see muscles that they never even knew that they ever had. Everything really seems to pop out. What was that like for you?
First of all, I'm very shy. So first time putting on tan was horrible for me. I got freaked out. I was so nervous. I started sweating, and but I had my coach there, and he told me to calm down. This would be over really soon. And yeah, when it was over, I looked myself in the mirror, and I saw like a whole new body.
Yeah.
So, but it was definitely horrible for me to very first time stand there and get tanned.
I mean, that's one of those things too. I just couldn't imagine, what that must feel like. But now going off of the bodybuilding topic, I love having people from Scandinavian countries on because if you can't realize, I mean, I always say Scandinavian people sometimes speak better English than people who even live in English countries. So what do you give that? I mean, is it just really, really ingrained in your educational system that you have just such a great, because like you have like almost no accent at all when it comes to English. Is it just really, really ingrained in Scandinavian countries just how to speak it in schools?
For me, I don't think my English is very good, but I'm trying. For me, yeah, we actually learn English pretty early, but I was never like good in English when I was in school. I was traveling much, and I always like watch English TV, like good comedies or stuff like that. So I learned my English from there, not from school.
Yeah.
I was horrible at English in school. Horrible.
I was gonna say I have Norwegian relatives and they come over to the U.S. every once in a while and they have almost no accent. Also, it's just for some I always like to say like there's always a joke in my family. It's like they speak better English than we do. Sometimes they know it more than we do, which is funny. But what was the favorite place that you traveled to? Because you said you've traveled a lot when you were younger.
As I was younger, I used to go to Egypt and Turkey with my family. And as I got older, I like Spain.
Mm.
I like, yeah, Spain is my number one.
Yeah. I've that's been one of my destinations too. I've always wanted to go. I've always wanted to go to Madrid or any place like that. That would seem definitely unreal. So when it comes to, I mean, people don't realize, going back to the bodybuilding, people don't realize that when you are putting on that muscle, when you are getting bigger, you're going to need to eat a lot more food than you normally ate even before you were working out, even if you were overweight. I mean, you've had people on here that have weighed, a lot of weight, and then they even had to realize, hey, I even got to eat more than I was eating back then once I start putting on the muscle. Was that a struggle for you, or was it just one of those things where you're like, okay, awesome, I can eat more?
Actually, I don't eat more now than I used to before. I have always been like eating large meals and like a real hunger kid.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was hard to cut down and eat less.
Mm-hmm.
That has been a struggle for me. I like to eat until I'm in the food coma. So it's hard for me to eat smaller and more often.
Mm-hmm. Is there, I mean, because we have a lot of people from different cultures, from different countries. Is there something, I mean, I know Sweden has, a lot of US stuff. You guys probably have like McDonald's, just places like that. But when it comes to just the Swedish cuisine, is there stuff that you think is especially good for you when it comes to when it comes to protein and putting on muscle that is just Swedish in culture, just any food type there?
No, I just go for the basic. I don't care about the Swedish food. I don't care about stuff like that. I just go with like rice, chicken, cod, salmon, meat,
That's awesome.
oats in the morning, egg whites, like stuff like that.
That's awesome. And now for your first show experience, I mean, like you said before, you are a shy person. What was that experience like, or how did you sort of psych yourself up to walk up on stage? Because most people don't, I mean, if you don't realize, I mean, you're in a bikini basically, and you're walking up on stage in front of everyone, which can be, a nervous enough situation in and of itself, even for the most, flamboyant person who's like really not nervous at anything. That can still be super nerve wracking. What was that experience like for you, and how did you sort of overcome that nervousness?
I had my entire family watching that show. And as I stepped up on the stage, just moments before, I felt like, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't have this tiny bikini showing off in front of all these people, having my family watch me there. I was completely out. I couldn't even stand on my own feet. But as fast as I went on the stage, I felt happy. I just forgot everything and just enjoyed myself on stage. And then when it was done, I came down and I felt like I'm nervous again. Start sweating and stuff like that. And then when they told me I was in the final, I was shocked. I was even more nervous because now I had to do my eye walk. Everyone would just like focus on me. So that was horrible. But same here. As soon as I step up on the stage, all the nervous just disappeared and I enjoyed myself.
Absolutely. So, I mean, and just also competing at such a young age, do you think that that's really, really helped you when it comes to, getting all those like early experiences out of the way, where some people that we have on here, they wait to compete until they're like in their mid 20s, maybe even early 30s to start competing. Do you think that that has really benefited you getting, sort of getting all of the bad stuff out sort of in the beginning, like all the nerves, all of the, I mean, I can guarantee that you still get nervous for probably some shows, but just sort of getting out all of the major things in the beginning, has that really helped you?
For me, I was ready at 17. I had the muscle. I had like the maturity in the muscle because I have been working out like my entire life. So for me, yeah, it was good that I started at 17. But it depends, if you're ready, age doesn't matter. You can be ready at 17 and you can be ready at like 30, 35. It doesn't matter. It's all in the shape, how you look, how you develop your muscle. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, what is your go-to meal to have after the show?
You haven't heard about it. But it's like Arabic sweets, super delicious, and like just one bite will put you in food coma, and it's so much sugar, it's insane.
Oh, that sounds.
So I always go for that, and then I try to like look up a Chinese buffet to just like go all in.
That's totally awesome. Now, you did mention before the podcast that you're originally from Syria, but you moved at a super young age to Sweden. What was that experience like? I mean, obviously you don't remember anything about being in Syria, but I mean, what was that experience like growing up? Because I mean, growing up, like I said, your last name isn't the most typical Swedish last name that we've probably ever heard. So growing up, it must have been a little bit different for you. Was that a struggle at all for you growing up, or was it just one of those things where you didn't really recognize it?
I moved here when I was 3 months, and for me it was a big struggle because no one in my family could speak any Swedish, so I had to learn that by myself in school. So it was a big struggle, yeah.
And the fact that, I mean, everyone thinks about Swedes and they just think about, blonde haired, blue eyed people that they're just basically everywhere. And just, I mean, like I always said, like, if they were ever having any beauty contests or anything like that, just go to places like Sweden and Norway and you'd literally find all the contestants there. It's just ridiculous how everyone there looks like they could be like a supermodel, basically. Or at least to our standards, it looks like everyone there could be. I mean, it is just absolutely ridiculous. And about the Swedish language, I mean, it's a very different sounding language, I think, than a lot of other languages. But what was the hardest thing for you to learn when you were starting out about the Swedish language?
My first language was Arabic. So when I start to learn Swedish, for me it was like the accents. Everyone made fun of me in daycare, and I had big problems growing up with the language. But I think as soon as I was in second grade, my Swedish was as good as everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so good learning those languages early on and young, because I took German in high school and in college, so I can speak a little bit of German. I mean, I'm a little fluent, but like if you put me in front of a native German speaker, we could probably only talk for like 15, 20 minutes before I'd run out of, what to say to them. But it's just, yeah, I mean, learning early and just developing that memory is such an important thing. And then also like working out early too, developing that muscle memory so early young so that it becomes just ingrained in it is just a huge thing too. And you mentioned before that you did gymnastics, and gymnastics is a lot of body weight training, a lot of body weight workouts. Do you incorporate any of that into your training now, or is it just basically just weight training, or do you do a lot of body work as well?
No, I would like to do more, but no, I don't. I just do like heavy lifting, a little bit stretching. But if I would put some sport combinate with the gym, I would definitely go for swimming.
Oh, yep. Yeah, I mean, just well, obviously the back that it builds. I mean, just doing like rows and doing, you know, all those other things. I mean, I have so many people. I mean, just like everyone says, swimming gives you such a big back, anyways. I mean, from doing all of the stuff that you do. I mean, it's so. I mean, I can always identify if someone was a swimmer or not just because of the huge back that you have. I mean, it's almost always going to be that person was a swimmer. I mean, I've had girls too that I've went up to like give them a hug or whatever. I was like, oh, holy crap, yep, she's definitely a swimmer. Just because like you're reaching around basically the whole entire huge back, and you're like, oh, yep, that's definitely a swimmer there. So yeah, I mean, it's just such a defining thing. And swimming, I mean, it is one of the best workouts you can get. Absolutely. I mean, it's such a great thing. But now going back to the competing, I always probably my most important question that I'm going to ask any of our guests that we have on here is that a lot of people don't realize when they look at people on the stage, they don't realize that that is not a sustainable look. You are not going to be that lean and look that good for a very long time. I mean, we've had people that literally that night they've gained like 5 pounds already from eating, or within weeks they've gained like 20-30 pounds, because I've had so many people come up to me and say like, oh, they must be jacked and ripped 365 days out of the year, and it's like, nope, not even close. It's not even close to that. What are some ways that you sort of mentally prepare yourself for the fact that you are not going to look that good year round, and that that is not a sustainable look? Like, you are going to have to put on weight. Has that been a struggle for you, and how have you sort of mentally adapted to that?
Never. I like being bigger, fluffier, heavier. I don't like being super lean. But when I do my shows, I have to be super lean. So I just kill myself till the show, and then I just go off on the food. And sometimes it's even a big problem. Stop eating after the show.
I was gonna say
So,
because so many people, like, they talk about like how they get like depressed or anxious like putting on the weight, but then I'm one of those people where I'd be like that too. I was like, when you're that skinny, we've heard so many stories about like how you get so cold easily, like you're just kind of shriveled up a little bit, and it just doesn't seem like it would be that appealing. I mean, you look great, obviously, but it's just, you know, putting on that little bit more fluff is just, I mean, I can't imagine what that first meal must taste like after, you know, dieting down for so much. That must be like the greatest feeling in the world. But yeah, I mean, that would be worth it just for me, just to kind of experience what that meal was like for the first time. I mean, absolutely. And I mean, probably one of my favorite my favorite two questions coming up now are, for me, when I started putting on a lot of muscle, started putting on a lot of weight, the one thing that I didn't like about it is that you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of pickle jars. I mean, every time, I'm still at home with my parents because I just graduated college, so I'm still at home for a couple of months, but every time they come home with food, I'm the one who's always got to carry in every single grocery. So have you had similar experiences where people look at you and obviously assume like, oh my God, she's huge, she must be like super strong, where they just assume that you can like do stuff for them, like help them move furniture and stuff?
if it's my family,
Yeah.
I like helping out, like lifting stuff,
Yeah.
flex, you know,
Yeah.
make them see that I'm actually strong. But if it's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
people never ask me. I think people are afraid of asking me
Yeah.
to help them out.
Yeah. Well, because like I have my entire summer is full of weekends of just friends being like, hey, Ryan, can you come over? And I need a couch that needs help to be moved. Can you come and help me lift this? So I just got to the point where I was like, okay, they recognize that I do work out and that I do, you know, put on, you know, that I have trained and worked my butt off. So I take it as a compliment now. But in the beginning, it was like, oh my God, I just don't want to be so busy all the time with everyone constantly. And I even told them, I was like, if it's like moving furniture, if it's a back workout, I am not going until after I've done my workout, because I'm not going to strain my back out before I go and work out. So it's just all about having those priorities, but also being at such a young age. I mean, most 22-year-old guys don't even look that good, and that's a big thing. So when it comes to being that young, do you think that also is? I mean, what has that experience been like? Because like you said, most 22-year-old guys aren't even looking that good. Most 22-year-old girls, I mean, you're probably the biggest one in Sweden for that age. What has that experience been like for you?
I don't see myself that big. I just see myself like, okay, I weigh this much, I have to get bigger.
Yeah.
And I always think that even before shows, after shows, I have like my ultimate goal is like getting bigger.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And probably my favorite question to ask is, obviously, this is a multi-million-dollar idea before I ask it for anyone out there who has that. But when it comes to buying clothes for fit women or muscular women, your clothing options are limited. I just always like to say, like, if you have big shoulders, dresses are sort of out of the picture, or jeans are another thing that we've heard where it's like with the thighs and how small the waist can usually get, they're almost impossible to get. What are some ways that you've sort of compensated for the fact that your clothing options are limited as opposed to someone else's?
First of all, it's impossible to go out and shopping. And if I do, I have to find like super, super, super stretchy stuff. Mm-hmm. If it's jeans, it can't be jeans. It has to be like super stretch, like another material. It can't be jeans because obviously the quads won't fit, the calves won't fit, the waist will be too big. But I have a tailor who helps me out when I go shopping, and if I go to like, I'm originally from Syria.
Mhm.
We go to much parties, weddings, stuff like that. I go out, I buy a dress or jumpsuit, then I go to my tailor and make sure it fits
Yeah.
all the body,
Yeah, that's
not just a few body parts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So like I always like to say, like if someone out there comes up with an idea for that, that's a multi-million-dollar idea, so definitely get on it. And going back, I mean, being in Sweden, I mean, it's not typically known as a place where there are a lot of muscular people. I mean, when you look at a typical Swedish person, I mean, healthy. I mean, it's a lot of probably people that look like they might run a lot. I mean, it's not like how it is here. How do you think how do you think the acceptance has been for muscular women there as opposed to a place that, like, let's say the United States is?
Actually, here, everyone, yes, are wearing sportswear, Nike, Adidas, go out and run. But with the muscle and the acceptance of this kind of sport, they actually don't accept it. They bully bigger girls. They bully if you lift heavier. It's here in Sweden. You have to be like everyone else.
Mhm.
You can't stand out. You can't be much heavier than other girls, lift
Mhm.
more weight than other girls. So that's a problem, yeah.
Yeah,
And they sometimes, you can go out with your family in the summer. They don't even have any kind of respect to you
that's ridiculous.
because like you're wearing lighter clothes, you're just, yeah,
That
they
that
bully you.
that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I always have that. I always have a spiel that I always give where, I mean, for some reason, when it comes to especially women getting healthier, getting more fit, more muscular, it's accepted in a lot of societies to sort of, like you said, make fun of them or try to make jokes at them. But like, I always like to give the scenario like if you were an alcoholic and you're recovering alcoholic, you're not going to have anyone ever make fun of you for trying to get better and sober up and clean up your life. Whereas opposed to, I mean, bettering your life health wise for women, I mean, for some reason, people just think that they have the right to talk. And I mean, it's a lot of it is jealousy. And a lot of it too is just because it's something like what people say, like I always tell the experience when I was in college. I mean, I was a lot bigger than I am now when I was in college, just because I had a lot more time to work out. I didn't have a full-time job and everything. But I mean, there would be so many times where it would just be like women sometimes at bars would just come up to me and they just feel my arms and they wouldn't even ask to do it, and I'd just be like, oh, okay, you're whatever. Where it's because people don't see it too often that when they do see it, I mean, it's one of those things where they're just fascinated by it, where they just can't stop staring. So that's just another part of it too, where I think, I mean, like you said, I mean, if you were to go out sleeveless, I mean, you'd probably no one would ever be able to like take their eyes off, or they'd just be like, oh, what is that? That's awesome. Or I mean, like you said, just all the attention that you get, especially in the summertime. So it's one of those things where people just aren't interested. I mean, they're just not used to it. Where it takes a while because I mean, when I talk about like other bodybuilders from Sweden, I can think of like Claudia Larson is probably the most popular one that I can think of. But yeah, there isn't really too many. There's a lot of figure girls, there's a lot of bikini girls, but when it comes to the bodybuilding, there isn't really too much. And do you find that sort of to be difficult though too? Because like if there are only a couple bodybuilders really from Sweden, do you find that hard to sort of analyze like what you need to do in order, or what you need to look like in order to place good in these competitions, these international competitions?
For me, I did Swedish national and then I took off to Arnold Classic last year. I was so afraid of being too small, so I shred down myself way too much. And then when I was there, I was super shred. I had like cut out much muscle. So when I was there, I looked at them and I was like thinking, no, those girls aren't big. I was bigger and I was better. I shouldn't have shred down myself so hard.
Yeah.
So absolutely, you have to like go international and see for yourself. Because for me, it was like a shock seeing them so small, and I was thinking like they will be huge. I have no chance,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't like that.
So you mentioned, so when you do your training splits, do you ever train heavy, or do you just like to do, I mean, because a lot of people don't realize that bodybuilders don't really, most of them don't tend to train a lot heavier because a lot of it is just about, making the muscle look like they train, like that they can lift a lot of weights. But for you, do you do a lot of heavy training?
It's all about mind muscle
Mm-hmm.
connection, pump. But for me, I love training heavy. It's I feel like it's home for me. So yeah, I always try to push more weights, do more reps on them.
Okay, everyone, this is where she embarrasses us all. What are some of your best lifts that you've done in the gym?
I don't go super
Uh-huh.
heavy. I don't do 1 or 2 reps.
Mhm.
I do full reps. But the best of what I can think about is 100 kilo bench press for like 8, 9 reps, I think.
Jeez.
Leg press, I think 550 if I'm full off season and I do like 6, 8 reps. Squat, I'm actually weak in squat, so no more than 110 kilo. Biceps curl, I just throw them up. But of course, with the muscle
Yeah.
connection, not like
Yeah.
crazy training. With like yeah,
Still, like I always say, if you can bench press more than your weight, that's the most impressive thing, anyway. So that's 100 kilogram bench press. That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, like I said, you've just humbled everyone that's been listening to this podcast by just listening to how much you can lift. And when it comes to, I mean, your goals, what are some of your goals for, like, if we were to talk in like a year, what would your goal be for where you'd be at in that year?
from now to 1 year
Yeah.
forward, I would love to have a pro card, which I failed getting this year because of some problems. But yeah, a pro card, absolutely.
Yeah, and I absolutely think you're gonna get it. And now we go to our audience favorite and my personally favorite part of the podcast, a little questionnaire where I'm gonna ask our guest about a dozen or so healthy and fit questions, or just, basically a getting to know you segment. We're gonna see how she stacks up to all the other guests that we've had. So for our first question, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
I like to listen to motivation speeches from Dorian, from Big Ramy, from Kevin LeBron, Ronnie Coleman. Really get pumped, listen to them, listen to how they used to train, looking at their little clips that I have. If I'm training legs, I like to watch Tom Platz.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome. I have Ronnie Coleman coming on in 2 weeks. He's coming on the show to come and talk. So I'm really, really excited about that. I mean, when you talk about like inspirational bodybuilders, he's one of the, I mean, how a guy got that big. I mean, I was gonna ask him, like, dude, how did you even fit through doors back then? Like, it's like they must have had to build like special doors for you because that guy was just so huge. But yeah, I mean, those inspirational things too. I do admit that I listen to him on occasion before I work out. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could work out with any celebrity, who would it be?
I would say it's between two. No, it's between three.
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie Coleman, Big Ramy, Dorian Yates.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I would definitely. Yeah, just training with any of those guys too would be super super inspiring for me. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train any celebrity, who would it be?
I really don't know. I don't know.
We have
No idea.
our most popular answer is like Kevin Hart, the comedian, but just because he's just absolutely hilarious. But yeah, sometimes, I mean, some celebrities like we don't. I don't know, because one of the things that one of my biggest pet peeves is that, especially on Instagram, you see some of these celebrities who are like curling like 3 pound dumbbells, and they're like, oh my god, getting ready for this big movie role that I have coming up, and then it's like, no, that's not how you train for the movie roles, because then they show up like a month later and they're so much more leaner and they're so much more better in shape, and you're like, you're just doing false stuff where people think then that is the way that you get that look, where it's just, that's one of my big pet peeves, that's why I always like to say, I mean, if any of these celebrities could go through a real workout and see what it's like, I would pay so much money to see that, because it would be so funny to watch.
I would absolutely like to train The Rock.
Oh, yep.
Giving me a real session.
Yeah. But now, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
Think chicken.
Yep.
Fresh chicken.
Yep. Where do you get your chicken from? Do you mainly go to stores, or do you like to buy organic?
No, actually, my dad get me every month 30 kilo chicken that I just put inside the fridge.
That's great. Yeah. So then you have everything stored up. I mean, you don't have to go shopping all the time. So That's definitely very, very, very nice of your dad, and that really, really helps you out a lot. Because I have so many people who are like they go like weekly to the store just to get chicken every week, and it's like, yeah, that would become a pain after a while. So to have that just stacked up is so great. But now, what is one thing that people who follow you on Instagram would be surprised to know about you if they met you in person?
I actually don't know. I really don't know. Wow. I have heard from people that I look bigger in real life, but I don't know about that. I don't think so.
That's
Uh,
one of the best compliments you could probably ever get, though. You
no,
actually look
personally, no.
you look bigger than you actually look on Instagram. I mean, that's awesome. That because we have so many people on here who are like they're really like 5 feet tall, like in person. So like when people meet them, they're like, "Oh, you're not as big as you look in person." But for you, it's like, "Oh my god, yeah, she's actually more muscular than in person than we ever thought." So I was like, "Oh my god, that's awesome." So I mean, that's a compliment. That's a compliment too, I guess, in and of itself.
No, but I don't know if they try to be nice to
Yeah.
me or if it's the truth. I don't know.
Who knows?
But I
Yeah.
personally don't think so. I look bigger on Instagram for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because like I always said, like she's 22 years old. When I first said that, I was like, I honestly was like, I call BS on that. There's no way that she's 22 years old, but everyone, yep, she's 22 years old. Because I look at some of those Instagram photos and I was like, okay, there's some guys here that are like 35 years old that don't look that good after they've been working out for 20 years. So she's really got. I mean, she's definitely she knows some of the secrets. So everyone, I mean, go and talk to her if you want to know. I mean, it's just incredible personally. But now,
Thank you.
what is one thing that you would change about the sport of bodybuilding if you had the power to do so?
I don't know. I would like to change the thinking of these girls who say like, yeah, I want to be shredded, I want to look good, but I don't want to have a big muscle. I don't want to be big. I don't want to lift heavy because I'm afraid of getting too big. I have easy to gain muscle. When people talk to me like that, I can't deal with it. I
Mm-hmm.
get mad. I just leave them. I get out of there because I know this will be a problem if I continue this conversation.
Mm-hmm. That leads into my number one misconception where, like I said, if I had a nickel for every time a woman came up to me and just said, like, hey, I always like to tell my story. When I was in college, one of my really good friends, she was like, I see that you're working out and getting bigger, and I really want to, sort of get in shape myself, but I'm so afraid that if I, start working out and lifting weights that I'm just gonna get so big. And she's like, I don't want to look like you. And I said, first of all, I have so much more testosterone than you have that you will never look like that. And I said, second of all, after one night, I finally told her, I was like, look, the amount of weight that you carry in that purse of yours that when we go out to like clubs or when we go out to eat weighs a lot more than a lot of the dumbbells in the gym. And you're not gaining any muscle from lugging that thing around all the time. So then that finally sort of convinced her. But yeah, it's just one of those things where women just don't realize how much hard work. I mean, she's been working out, like she said, for almost 10 years. And it's like you're not going to look that way just overnight. You're not going to pick up one weight and be like, oh my God, I look exactly like her. It's like, no, it takes so much more hard work and dedication, and people don't realize the nutrition that has to go into it and just everything. It's such a misconception that I love to bust that. And it's just one of those things where people, and it's one of those things too, where once women get in the gym and start lifting weights, they realize like, oh, it's not true at all. So it's just about getting them in there just to realize that it's one of those things where you don't really, you're not going to get huge. You're not going to get really big. I mean, it takes so much hard work and dedication. I mean, it's my biggest pet peeve, honestly. For women, at least when they come up. For guys, there's a whole nother thing where they just think that they don't have to train legs at all. So then you see all these guys that are just huge up top, and they walk in, they're almost wobbling, they're almost tripping over themselves on their legs because their legs are so small because they can't do. I mean, that's my biggest pet peeve too, where it's like their calves are the size of their forearms, so or their legs. So it's just like
Nightmare, nightmare.
yeah, it's a nightmare basically. Absolutely. So now going back to our questionnaire, what is one thing that you would have, or was one thing that you would die to have if it went up for auction? So like if everything on the world was up for auction, what was one thing that you would want to have the most? My favorite answer was someone said Channing Tatum if they could have anything in the world, and I said, okay, he's a person, so that's a little bit differently. But then we've had people say like they wanted like a nice car, or someone said they want a mansion. But and another one of our another favorite answers, one lady said that she wanted an all diamond bikini to wear at her next competition. But I said there's a problem because you would like blind everyone because all the light would reflect off the diamond. So like the judges would be able to take their eyes off you, but like you would blind everyone. So that wouldn't be a good thing. So like would there be any item, like if you had your pick of anything in the world, would there be one certain item that you would just want more than anything else?
One item. No, I don't think so.
Mhm.
The diamond bikini, that I liked,
Yeah,
but
that'd
no,
be
I
cool.
don't know.
Yeah, that would be cool. And when it comes to, muscular women, I mean, being 22 years old, you must, I mean, what is the average guys in Sweden really tend to think of you? Like I said, a lot of people are intimidated, but when it comes to that experience, how has that been like? Are guys really nice to you in general, or do they sometimes like to give you a hard time? What has that experience been like?
In my local gym,
Hmm.
it's somewhere in the hoods here in Sweden. As fast as I'm inside the gym, they like look at me, start competing against me, who's lifting more weight.
They're not gonna win.
No, absolutely not. Of course, obviously, they all know that,
Yeah.
but they try to like get under my skin, but it's always the opposite. I always get under
Mhm.
their skin and not even knowing that. So for me, it's not a problem because
Mhm.
I don't care.
Yeah,
They can do whatever they want.
I
I don't
know.
care.
I just say like
I
because
do my shit and then I leave.
yeah.
So yeah.
I always just say that though, just because like it's for a lot of people it is so much easier here in the United States where it has gotten to a point where a lot of people just because I think of Instagram too where it's so much more accepting of women that like to work out and stuff where I just hear these stories and I'm just like I mean it's just so sad because like that was what it was like here like probably 20 or 30 years ago where now it's gotten to a point where you can look at fit women in the gym and a lot of guys give them compliments. They're like, wow, you look amazing, like keep it up, stuff like that, where it's just if everyone could experience that. And how have you ever been to the United States, or do you plan on coming here?
Yeah, of course, I plan in
Oh.
the future to come there, but I have never been there.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, like the first time. I mean, it is so much more. I'd say from all the interviews that I've done with people, it's a lot more, accepting and a lot more, especially with muscular women, where it's just people realize, the hard work and dedication that you put into it. It's just, I mean, it's an amazing thing in and of itself. I mean, but another one of the thing too is that, like I was telling the story about before, where like people sometimes just get transfixed by the way that you look. Do you find that sometimes in Sweden too, where people just like all of a sudden just like just by the way you look, they just look at you and they're not able to look past the person that you are individually? Because one of the reasons why I like to have people on the show is that a lot of people look at female bodybuilders or bodybuilders in particular and they don't see past the muscles. They don't realize that there's a person underneath that. They just look at the aesthetics, the outside. Do you find that sometimes is hard where people just look at your muscles and they're not able to discern, or they're not able to realize that you are just an average human being underneath all that?
Inside the gym or around gym people or that milieu, I don't actually give people chance to like talk to me. I just go there, try to shut up. If someone like try to bug me, I just like turn around and do my stuff. And outside the gym, when I'm out with my parents and stuff, yeah, people actually look at just my muscle, forgetting that I'm a human.
Mm-hmm.
Say stuff like weird stuff, horrible stuff. But I think it's necessary for females who like to look bigger also take care of like their looks, be more girly, like get the hair done,
Mm-hmm.
makeup, taking care of your like clothing, have wearing like heels, jeans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That make that will obviously make a better image
Mm-hmm.
of the bodybuilding and of like yourself. So I think if you do that, people will look at you like, yeah, she's a bodybuilder into bodybuilding, but she's also like a unique girl. So yeah.
Absolutely. I always like to make the analogy where, like, if we were talking like men and women in bodybuilding, if we were driving down the street, for men, it's just an open driveway where you can just go as fast as you can. It's just a straight road. But for women, it's all like you have to zigzag, you have to go through underpasses. It's such a hard thing to try to balance because there's so many people where like, I really want to balance that femininity and the muscles. Where the guy bodybuilders that I've had on, they don't even have to think about that. For them, it's just grow, 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 basically, and just look as proportionate as possible. But for women, it's such a huge struggle. So that's why I appreciate especially female bodybuilders, because they have to go through so much more than the guy bodybuilders do, especially with society wise and with the fact that, I mean, just the femininity and the balance. Because with the guys, like I said, guys like Ronnie Coleman, I mean, all he had to worry about was just lightweight and lifting more and lifting as much as he possibly could. So it's really, it's really just fascinating to talk about that. But now, going on to our questionnaire part of the segment again, what is the last TV show that you binge watched?
It would be Family Guy and American Dad.
Ooh. Yeah, I love Family Guy. It's one of my favorites. What's your favorite character in Family Guy?
I think it's Stewie.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a friend in high school who sounded just like him, so he'd get him to talk like Stewie all the time. Where he'd just say like what the deuce and everything like that like all the time whenever stuff would happen. So it was hilarious. Now, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Favorite TV show? It would be Frasier.
Ooh,
if you have seen it.
Yeah, absolutely. We usually get like Friends or The Office, which are probably my favorite or my two favorite. But yeah, Frasier, that is a great one too. I mean, I started out watching Cheers and then I watched Frasier after that happened, and that was that is a great show too. I absolutely love Frasier. But now, what is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy?
Movie? I don't know. I don't watch that much movies. More like TV shows, not movies.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. So I was gonna say, like, for me, my guilty pleasure movies, my ultimate first date night movie is The Princess Bride. That is my favorite movie to watch on a date or anything like that. That is the ultimate guilty pleasure movie. And for all my guy friends out there, I will never admit that in person, but I will admit it here on this podcast that is one of my favorite movies. So yeah, I always got to mention that, where I'm not going to admit that in person. But I mean, if someone were to walk up to you in the gym and say like, and were to be nice to you and say like, oh my God, you look amazing. Like, I really want to sort of adapt a more healthy and fit lifestyle. What would be the best piece of advice that you could give that person in order for them to be successful?
First of all, that would never happen in Sweden. Number one. Never.
On the rare occasion that it might, though.
If it would happen, I would absolutely love to help them. With the meal plan, with training, and with everything I know. But I know that this kind of stuff would never happen here in Sweden.
Yeah, we'll do hypotheticals then, because I mean and that honestly just breaks my heart though to hear that though, because like there's so many times like we have like whenever I have some of my American guests on here or even Canadian guests, and we'll tell stories like that, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I get asked that like at least 3 or 4 times a day, like where people come up to me and like say that, when I was like, yeah, but yeah, that's just, I mean, so hopefully when you do come over here, you will have a lot better of an experience. But it is, it's one of those things too, where if they did, but I mean, it's all about one of these things that I realized too from talking to all these people. I've had some of the most muscular and biggest people on the planet on here, and they are some of the nicest people you will ever meet on the planet. Like, obviously a lot of the guys too, like a lot of the people do sometimes, so someone who's never lifted, they might look intimidating, they might look like someone where like if you go up to them they might not be as receptive, but they are some of the nicest people you can talk to. They're so kind, and they usually, I mean, are just so, like in the gym too, if you go up and talk to some of the biggest people, they are so much willing to help you. They're willing to give you that extra tip or help you with a set or something, as long as, like I always say, do not go to them when they're like in mid set. So if like they're benching and you go up and talk to them, that's not going to turn out well. Like that happened one time in college where a guy talked to me when I was trying to bench, and I was like, okay, I love that you're coming up and talking to me, but wait until I'm done with the bench, and then I'll help you with whatever you need. So it's all about just knowing that too, and boundaries too as well. I mean, it's it's one of those things where I always have to stress on that too. But I mean, yeah, they're some of the nicest people, so go and talk to them. And now, I always like to ask this question, but for you, it doesn't apply as much as I had for other people. But if you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give her?
4 years ago, I would absolutely say do Swedish nationals as fast as you can and start competing international.
Yeah.
Immediately.
I was gonna say,
don't waste any time.
I was gonna say, being 22, I was like, I normally have like people in their 30s on, so I was like 18, but then it's like, I was like, oh, it's only like 4 years back, so it's not really. I mean, we did have one girl who was 19 on here, so I was like, okay, I'm not even gonna ask that question, because that was literally like 4 months ago. So I was like, what would you tell yourself 4 months ago, like doing it? So yeah, that was just another thing, and she was like, yeah, so that was just a completely different thing. So, and also, I like to ask these final questions here before we wrap up here. If you could only work out one body part for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Legs.
Legs? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Legs.
I was gonna say, I mean, with that swimmer's back, it's probably gonna stay like that for a very long time, just because you have that foundation. You have that foundation in it. Where like for me, it's my arms. Like if I am one of those weird people where I am blessed with good biceps. Where if I don't train biceps for like 2 weeks, they can still look almost as good as if I never, let's say like a month I didn't train them. They'd still look as good as the day that I got done training them. But everything else would just go to flab. So like I don't know what that is. It's a positive thing, but we've had people on here that are like that. Yeah. When it comes to a body part that you really need to catch up on, like you said, your legs, what are some of your favorite exercises to do for legs? Because legs are one of those things where so many people have so many different ideas of what it takes to make them grow. What are your favorite exercises to do?
I like to do squats, front squats, leg extensions, leg press, deadlifts, hack lift, every lift possible, just put on heavy weight and just go for it.
Is it hard sometimes knowing that, I mean, so many people, like in the US, we are not really aware of the metric system because we have our own system where it's pounds instead of kilograms. Has it been hard, like especially on social media, sometimes knowing like how much that lift equates from kilograms to pounds, or has it been a thing where you've gotten used to it, where like if because a lot of these weights sometimes are made in the US that get sent to some of these gyms, so sometimes they have pounds on it as opposed to kilograms. Has that been a difficult adjustment for you, like learning how those convert?
If it's inside the gym, I don't care. I just
Yeah.
load up the bar and I feel like, okay, this is good. I need more weights.
Yeah.
Okay, this is starting to get heavy and more weights. But I always use kilograms. I don't use much pounds, but I know if I have to, I just pick up my phone and do the calculating. So,
and when it comes to, I mean, also the weather that Sweden gets. I mean, I'm in Minnesota, where we get probably some of the coldest winters on the Western Hemisphere, where it can get to like negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit here. Sometimes it's gotten that low. But when it comes to Sweden, it can get cold as well. What are some ways that you sort of stay motivated during the cold? Because, like I said, when your body gets cold, your body mainly just wants to just sit inside and relax and just, hunker down for the winter. That's kind of what the body's main response is. What are some ways that you use to sort of convince yourself, like, hey, I need to go and get that workout in?
First of all, I always wear double pants, double jackets on, stuff like that. And in the winter, I think I just force myself. I just think, okay, I have a goal. I have to get to the goal. In order to get to the goal, I have to go to the gym now. So I just pick my stuff, wear some extra clothing, and just go to the gym. Start off with 2 minutes with my clothes on inside the sauna to warm up my body, and then just start lifting the weights.
I always tell people, because this is my cautionary tale, if you are going to train legs, make sure that you do not walk on slippery surfaces, because when I was in college, I had to walk a half mile back to my dorm from the gym. So I slipped one time. I slipped like 3 or 4 times on ice after I'd trained legs, because my legs were so sore that I couldn't really walk. I couldn't really get too much balance. And also, if you're going to shower or do anything in the gym afterwards, make sure that you are completely dry afterwards, because I had one time my hair was wet when I walked outside, and by the time I got back to my dorm, my hair was frozen solid. So, but I mean, I looked like I was in the NSYNC or Backstreet Boys. So I mean, the girls enjoyed it, but after a while, the hair kind of it got wet again, and then everything went back to normal. So, like I said, those are my 2 cautionary stories for the cold and everything like that outside. And now, when it comes to being in a different country, what would you say in Swedish? Well, obviously, like Swedish people, what would you say is the biggest misconception they have about Americans? We love to hear that. Being American, I love to hear what's the biggest misconception that you think people have.
For me, for my the people I talk to, it's Las Vegas, Olympia. That's it. We talk about that when we talk about the United States. But if I would like to say McDonald's, large meals, bigger meals. Pizza, much fat, much calories.
I had my cheat meal last night because I work at the United Postal Service. So I literally, my job is, on top of working out, is that I have to lift heavy boxes basically for 6 to 8 hours a day. So I'll go and I'll help trucks unload packages that can weigh up to 150 pounds, where I'll have to basically deadlift them onto a roller, and I do that 40 to 50 times for the heavy packages. So when I get done working out, I have more cheat meals now than I had before, just because I have 3 cheat meals a week now, just because I work out so hard that even last night I went to Burger King and I had 2 hamburgers, 2 double hamburgers, a large fry, chicken fries on top of that, which are basically fries, or which are basically chicken things that are in the shape of fries, and then I had a large Coke Icy to drink with that. So those are my cheat meals, basically, where I have to do that because I'm burning so much. Where if I want to keep any semblance of muscle and not become super skinny just from all of the the endurance stuff that I do. But yeah, I know it's a huge deal for me. Absolutely. Is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out to? Is there anyone that really has inspired you, or anyone that you've really taken a lot of inspiration from?
Yeah. First of all, my dad. He's my star. He's my supporter. He's my everything. He's the one actually who has been pushing me to do what I dream about to do. So yeah, my dad is the number one. And then my amazing nutrition coach, he saved my ass literally last year at Arnold Classic. I was almost I was seconds away from going to the hospital.
Wow.
It was so bad. So he saved me, and he have been helping me since. So yeah, to my nutrition coach and to my dad.
If you don't mind telling us, what happened at the Arnold that made you seconds away?
See, I was ready at 69 kilo, but I had in mind, like, because everyone in Sweden say, oh, they are too big, they're super shreds, you have no chance, you have this, you have that. So in my mind, I was doing the prep all alone. So in my mind, I thought, okay, I have to be super shred to fit in, because I don't have that much muscle in my inside my head. Of course,
Yeah.
I said that. So I have to be super lean. So I shred down myself to 60 kilo, and I was already done at 69. So I emptied out everything inside my body. So my jaw got swollen, my knees got swollen, and last week I start to collapse
Wow.
many times. So when my nutrition coach was back then spray tanning me, he saw that I was out. I couldn't stay on my own feet. I was dizzy. I was like seconds away for going to the hospital. So he gave me a banana, some rice cake, some sugar, some stuff like that, and said to me, "You have done something with your body. It's not normal. It's unhuman what you have done."
Yeah.
So I just told him, yeah, it's because everyone was scaring me off in Sweden, saying these international girls, they are super shred, they're super lean, they're super big. And I'm all alone in this. So I thought, okay, this is the way to do it.
Yeah. That's yeah. We've heard so many stories. Like we had one lady on here who was at 2% body fat when she competed at the Olympia, and that's just she weighed 150 pounds, so that means 3 of those pounds were fat, and that's it out of the 150 pounds. So that is absolutely ridiculous. Where it's like so many people, and you were talking about it like yourself. Body dysmorphia is a thing that affects a lot of bodybuilders, where you don't think that you're as big as you really are. What are some has that been a struggle for you? And if it has, I mean, what are some ways that you try to off balance that fact by? I mean, because obviously some people, like even the biggest people in the world, can look at themselves in the mirror and say like, I'm not big enough, when the average person will be like, dude, you are absolutely huge. What are some ways that you sort of tried to offset that?
No, back then, my problem was I had never seen international shows.
Oh, okay.
That's why I had in mind, like, okay, I have to be super shred. But now this year's competitions, I already knew I would be one size bigger than the rest of the girls. I had some struggles, of course, this year, crazy struggles. But I had in mind, okay, I have to be super shred.
Yeah.
In order to like fit in. So yeah,
absolutely. And then lastly, if there was one thing that you could tell the entire Swedish population, because like you said, it is very hard for female bodybuilders in Sweden. I mean, there's so many misconceptions about them, and they do get made fun of a lot, and it really isn't as accepted as it should be. Absolutely. If there was one thing that you could say to the Swedish population about, the struggles that you go through, if there's anything of advice that you could give them in order for it to make it easier on you, what would it be?
I would say if people try to bully you or make fun of you, they're actually like putting away their own stuff and focusing on you, because you are unique. They see something they can't have. So I would say for every girl, like, appreciate that. Make that something good. And as fast as you can, just leave Sweden and go live somewhere else.
Yeah, come to the US. Who knows? Yeah, absolutely. And again, are there any shows that you're currently getting ready for, or are you sort of bulking now? Where are you at in your process?
Right now, I have just recently done 3 shows. I did the Diamond Cup. I was out because they told me, you're too big and you're too lean. You don't fit in. It was Elite Pro show. Then I did Arnold. Same stuff happened there, but I got second place. Just after the Arnold, I got some damage in my stomach, so I had crazy inside bleedings.
Ooh.
But I managed to do my 3rd show, which was Iron Rebel show. But that show wasn't I was just lucky I could stay on the stage. It was horrible for me. The bleeding got crazy. But right now, no, I'm trying to recover my stomach. I probably need the surgery, but I am doing whatever I can now to avoid that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that kind of brought on a different topic just for lastly. What a lot of people, abs is another thing when it comes to training that a lot of people just, they're so different. We have some people that are just genetically where they don't even train abs, or they train abs like once a week, or a lot of people train them every day. What is your training process like when it comes to abs? I mean, obviously now that your stomach is, you might not be training them as much, but when you were training them a lot, what was your go-to thing for abs? What did you, how many times did you train them, and what exercises did you like to do?
If it's before shows,
Hmm.
high reps, much weight,
Yeah.
just try to make them real, like bulky,
Yeah.
show it to show.
Hmm.
But it would be like all kinds of exercises, especially in the morning after my cardio. I put in like the core training,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
2 3 exercises 2 3 times a week.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And again, you guys, go and follow her on her Instagram. I'll leave all of her links down below. Again, thank you so much for coming on. It was really great having someone for, like I said, I like to get people, I want to get people from almost every country on the planet here on this podcast. That's my goal. So you're our first person who's, lived in Sweden for a very long time. So we cannot thank you enough for that. I mean, I'm trying to get all the English speaking ones first. So far, I've gotten England, Australia, Canada, US, and I've gotten one more, but I still have Ireland is the one left to go, and New Zealand are my two countries that I have left. So I'm still working on those. But again, thank you so much for coming on, and definitely keep us up to everyone going forward. Check out her progress. Like I always say, it will inspire you to get off the couch and stop eating those Twinkies and to adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle. I mean, just having one look at her even right now. I mean, she's 22 years old. That's still mind-boggling. Like I can't even come up with the words to describe that. I mean, she's 22. Everyone. I mean, it's like I've had people that are 32 women on here, so it's like it's absolutely mind-boggling, ridiculous. And I always say, if she looks that good at 22, just imagine how she's going to look at 27. So it's going to be. I mean, you are definitely going to be one of the top premier bodybuilders I can think. If you keep up what you're doing, I highly recommend everyone go and check her out. She's definitely going to be one of those that you'll be hearing about in the future. And seriously, honestly, thank you so much for coming on. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.